Chris Mackowski of Emerging Civil War, and it is a cool Friday morning here on December 13th. I'm at Lee's Hill, Fredericksburg. Today's the anniversary of the battle, and a morning much like it was on the morning of the battle. Temperatures would rise into about the 40s or so, and it's forecast for today. But right now it's still just a little below freezing, and you can see my breath because I'm so full of hot air. It is from this perspective here. It was called Telegraph Hill at the time that Lee watched the Battle of Fredericksburg. But a lot of people kind of think that he's standing here watching the assaults against the stone wall and sunken road at Marye's Heights. From where I'm standing, that would have been off in that direction there. At first, this hillside was wooded, but pioneers chopped some trees down so that there's a better view up here for the artillerists and for Lee. It's really down toward the south that you had this wide expanse of view because there were 3 plantations that stretched down in that direction: the Bend, Mansfield, and Smithfield plantation. And that is where Lee is sort of watching the Union Army spread out in all its martial glory. And as it's marching across the fields, as the fog is lifting, and Lee has stirred, his military career has kind of tapped into this moment, and he says it's a good thing that war is so terrible, or we should grow too fond of it. Because he saw the flags unfurled and the marching troops and the gleam of bayonets in the morning sunlight as it was peering through the fog, and he couldn't help but be stirred. And of course, down in the southern end of the field is where kind of the Federals do have their breakthrough, and they are repulsed. But a lot of people think he's looking at those assaults at Marye's Heights, which are up here. But because of the way this line unfolds and kind of stretches out, there's a series of hills, and Lee can't actually see what's going on in front of Marye's Heights because Marye's Heights themselves block his view, so he can't see all those assaults that are going on. It's really the stuff at the south end of the field that inspires him to say that famous quote. It's a frustrating victory for Lee. He does inflict about 13,000 casualties on the Union Army, and suffers only about 5,000 himself by comparison, so a huge lopsided loss for the Army of the Potomac. But Lee is unable to gain anything. He doesn't gain any ground. He doesn't destroy the army. He's not able to drive Burnside away. He just hunkers down on the far side of the river to wait out the wintertime. So Lee's super frustrated by this victory because there's nothing he can do to take advantage of it. This particular piece of ground that I'm on is a spot that's owned by the National Park Service, but just behind it, you can see that there's a house and some buildings. That's property that's currently being preserved by the American Battlefield Trust. And so kind of only a sliver of Lee's vantage point is actually preserved up here. It's really that kind of top of the plateau that really needs to be preserved, so we can have this whole kind of area. So the work that you do as preservationists to support that is really important. So you can go to battlefields.org, see what they're up to. Now, this site doesn't see any actual fighting during the first Battle of Fredericksburg, although it does come under artillery fire. One shell comes in and explodes, and shrapnel nearly hits Lee and Longstreet, nearly decapitating the Army of Northern Virginia. Another shell comes in and buries itself near Lee's feet and doesn't go off because it proves to be a dud. But aside from that, no actual fighting. But there is fighting here during the second Battle of Fredericksburg in May of 1863 as part of the Chancellorsville campaign. Jubal Early used this as a command post so that he could see his line. And as Federals broke through against Marye's Heights and the sunken road, and they kind of outflanked this position and come sweeping up over here, driving Confederates from this great hilltop. So it's twice hallowed ground. The American Battlefield Trust certainly would appreciate your help in helping to preserve it, and gives folks a chance to come up here, walk in the footsteps of history, and envision what it must have been like for Lee as he stood here thinking about war so terrible. On the anniversary of the Battle of Fredericksburg, I'm Chris Mackowski for Emerging Civil War. We'll see you online and on the battlefield.